Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. In the comics, TV, and movies, we will go from the Mojo-verse to Earth 616 to the Quantum Realm in order to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the man without fear, Chris.
I'm your friendly neighborhood Brent.
Alliance Assemble. Volume 149. We hit the big 150 next week.
Yeah.
So, we are now 2 weeks away from Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. So again, it's the beginning of Phase 5. We got a lot of stuff to be excited about.
Yeah, definitely. David and I today took a few minutes to go into one of the collaboration rooms and watch a credit scene for something that may or may not be related to Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. I guess we'll know in about 2 weeks' time if I was right or not. But we'll probably talk about that theory next week.
Yeah, probably next week. I'd say some theories will be coming in. But how's your week been?
It's good. Kind of a quick one, if I'm being honest. I was like, oh wow, so it's already Thursday. Okay, it's recording night.
It's always good when the end of the week sneaks up on you, right?
I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining one bit.
Yeah, the week's been good for me. Last weekend got to meet in-person friend of the show, Sean O'Connell. So it was great to finally meet and connect with that. He's a good guy in person. We chatted a lot about some upcoming Marvel and DC stuff. So it was good to meet, and he is looking forward to coming back on whenever we're ready to have him back on. So
he can come on anytime as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly, that's what I said to him. So, but he is traveling around the country, book signings, things like that. So make sure you check out his feed and pick up his book With Great Power. But yes, we got a lighter news week, but we've definitely got kind of a rumor thread that's kind of picked up more and more steam in the last week with Fantastic Four. So we're kind of going to spend main part of our show looking at that tonight. But before we get into all that fun stuff, let's get those show plugs out of the way. So we are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network with 8 shows covering the wide range of geek and nerdom. To see the full schedule, check out the show notes below and subscribe to the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUAPod Network so you know when all the shows drop. And if we have a Patreon, so if you want to throw a couple of shekels our way, we've got 2 tiers: our $1 tier is our tip jar to say, hey, you think we're doing a good job, and then we've got our $5 tier with ad-free episodes, early access episodes, and Patreon exclusive shows. We just dropped our latest episode of We Can Watch This All Day, the Marvel Alliance MCU rewatch. And what is episode 13 all about?
Oh, let's see, that would be Age of Ultron.
Nice. Yes, it was a good recording, even though it's a lower on many people's list of the MCU, but we definitely found some diamonds in the rough with that as we continue on with our rewatch. The DC Alliance guys have got their DC through the years. Heinz got his multiverse minutes. Joe's got his multiverse minutes. Heinz has got his top 5s. Just strike that, reverse it. Katie's got looking at her canon, non-canon of the Star Wars comics. So got a lot of great stuff on there. So patrons, we greatly appreciate it. Thank you for being part of our Ultimate Alliance Patreon. If you want to join, go to www.patreon.com/GUA Network. We greatly appreciate that. But if you can't join us on Patreon, take 30 to 90 seconds and rate and review the Marvel Alliance solo feed, Geek Ultimate Alliance feed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever podcatcher of choice may be. And last but certainly not least, we want to thank our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com, for all your omnibus hardcover collected edition needs. JP and the crew at OPB have got it going on with immaculate packaging, excellent customer service, ships around the world. All these lovely new omnibuses and hardcovers, including, as we will point this out every time Brent gets a chance, that Sigil omnibus is staring at Brent.
Hell yes, look at that thing. It's beautiful. Why they put that cover on front of Sigil, I don't know, but it's still beautiful. I mean, it's showing a bunch of characters that's not in the book, just to warn you guys. It's just the one in the middle, just for the record.
Yeah, I mean, look at it. I mean, you've even got X-Men 92, the saga continues. We got some looking at the animated series, some great reprints, everything like that. And if you want to shop there, use that code MARVELGUA at checkout for $2 off every single order. You can use it a limited amount of times, and we want to thank them for being our official sponsor. All right, so I think we have no extra show notes this week, so we'll tell you about next week when we get to get to our, as we head towards Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania next week, we'll tell you kind of what the schedule is going to be next week. So we'll hold off on that. All right, so Brent, we're talking about some Fantastic Four, some casting rumors, some kind of ideas of possible villains and things like that. So we're going to try to stay there. There's one thing we're not going to cover in it. Brent and I have seen it, and I tried to hide it from Brent, but Brent decided to use his eyes a little bit closer, and my hiding skills.
Remind me to show you a good app for redacting stuff
Gotcha.
in pictures.
I tried.
Through no fault of your own. Yes, I did see this one little bit of spoiler. It's saying, this character will be introduced in this movie, but maybe not in a big role. That's it. We're leaving it at that. We're not going to say who it is because even though it's Fantastic Four, it's a while away. Who knows? They very well may be part of the marketing at some point, but we're not going to spoil that today.
Yeah. So, but this is mainly coming from the subreddit Marvel Studio spoilers from the Reddit forums. At that point, with everything with Reddit at that point, we know we take things with a grain of salt, but. It was interesting, the kind of bullet points on here and some stuff that has come out the last couple of days. It is kind of ringing true with some of these ideas. So starting right off, it leads us with, and most of the stuff we've either talked about roundabout way, but again, where there's smoke, there's fire. So first off, John Krasinski is not Reed Richards. On a scale from 1 to 10, Brent, how shocked are you, being 1 not shocked to 10 amazingly shocked?
2 to 3 in that range. I guess I'll call it a 2 because I really didn't expect it, but I did think there was a possibility.
Yeah, there's always a possibility, but I think the idea that we got him in Multiverse of Madness, the fan casting came alive, especially hearing how it all kind of went down as more of a last minute idea. I'm glad we got it, but the fact that we've always kind of heard as we were marching towards the idea of when the casting finally happens, it was never going to be a long-term thing. And again, nothing says he can't ever come back to the role. Again, multiverse, we could always do. I know this one version of him is spaghetti, thanks to Wanda, but nothing says that we can't bring him back for a different kind of, I don't know, maybe a zombie version of him continuing on. You never know.
That'd be fun. It'd be fun to see him again.
Yeah. So I'm a 1 or 2 as well. So next one. This has been picking up a lot of steam lately. We've been hearing Ryan Gosling being in talks for this, but not in necessarily the first family of Marvel. He is supposedly in talks to play the Silver Surfer, but Silver Surfer will not be in the movie proper. Silver Surfer was part of an early Fantastic Four draft, but he's since been cut, and Gosling, if he signs, will debut on the rumored special presentation that will be kind of the, one would say, the Fantastic Four prologue. It would be a good lead-in at that point. So what do you think about that? Ryan Gosling joining the MCU, either, voicing and kind of mocapping Nord Rad.
So I have no problems with Ryan Gosling joining the MCU. That's fine. I have zero complaints there. The thing that seems weird to me is that Silver Surfer would be a special presentation as kind of a lead into the FF, but he's not going to be in the Fantastic Four movie. Like, how is it leading? I can think of one scenario about a big purple-headed, wonderful splash page villain where if it's not that, I'm not quite making the connections of how one is leading into the others yet. But if Silver Surfer also introduces Galactus, and Galactus is the Fantastic Four villain, well, that kind of explains itself then.
Yeah, especially when, like you said, calling out, like, as we lead into the next one, talking about Galactus, at that point, you almost think that, again, we can't have one without the other. The Ryan Gosling, same thing. I really like him as an actor. It's definitely on my top list, but I think, again, the roles that I have seen him, I've really enjoyed and think he's done a great job with it. I don't know why, and one can say it's just from what I've seen of Silver Surfer when it is kind of voiced at that point. I don't see Ryan Gosling's voice fitting in with Silver Surfer. I'm not opposed to it, but it wouldn't be the first choice. I just hear this kind of baritone kind of booming, not necessarily booming, I would say just kind of a baritone voice when it comes to Nordrad. I don't know.
Well, so I was thinking about this, and what if they went along the same route that they did for the Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer movie, which, for the record, I think got Silver Surfer pretty on. Because didn't they have a different? They had Doug Jones did the body work, but didn't somebody else do the voice, or was that also him?
I don't
You
know.
know what? Let's just use an example I know for
Yeah.
sure. What if they go with the Darth Vader style from the early movies, where you have one person voicing Silver Surfer and someone else doing the mocap? Now, if that's the case, I don't exactly see that being Ryan Gosling. He's not coming on, and he's a big enough star. He doesn't have someone do voiceover for his work. You know what I mean? But they could do that.
Yeah, they very much could at that point. And I see the chat is very much popping off at that. S-Bubs in the chat at that point as well. Talking about the, I don't even browse the subreddit anymore. I barely get spoiled. Yeah.
Yeah, David just confirmed for me. Lawrence Fishburne was Silver Surfer in that movie.
Okay.
So I was thinking correctly. So, oh man, that guy, Marvel to DC and back to Marvel. Look at him go.
Yep, exactly. S-Bubs and David. Yeah, good on that at that point.
Thank you, S-Bubs. Thank you, David.
Well, welcome, World's Biggest Geek. Yeah, I think that's where I get it from. It's hard to kind of argue with that voice of, it's kind of like, Denzel Washington, Lawrence Fishburne, Morgan Freeman. You get to get that voice. That's what I'm stuck in my head. I'm not opposed to hearing Ryan Gosling, but again, it's not the one I jump at. But you're right. Where do we?
I mean, they'll modulate the voice. Like,
Yeah.
some people, again, like some of the names you just said, they don't need their voice modulated, but
True.
they'll change it if it's Ryan Gosling, right?
Yeah. And again, the character, it'll be interesting to see with the special presentation, what are we getting? Are we getting an origin story for the special presentation of how Norn Rad becomes Silver Surfer and things like that? But then the question is, if he's not going to be in the movie, what is he going to be? So again, some things we can think about. All right, so heading to that idea, the next one is Galactus is the main villain of the movie and will be played by either. Now, here are two very different castings. Dennis Quaid or Keanu Reeves. Don't know who of the two won in the end, but those were the front runners. Now, we've been hearing Keanu Reeves for a long time in the sense of meeting with Marvel, where, what could he possibly be? A lot of fan castings. But, again, Dennis Quaid on one side of the spectrum, then you got Keanu Reeves. Do either one of these strike you as our Galactus?
I mean, so for Galactus, that is someone that you would think is primarily a voiceover part. I mean, I guess they could do mocap and then just do some camera tricks as well as CGI tricks to make him appear physically ridiculously massive. But I mean, this is where I say they're actors, right? But right now, I'm not hearing the voice of either of them, and neither of them are sounding Galactus to me.
Yeah.
That's also where we need to go back to someone like James L. Jones 10, 15 years ago, when he was more up for it, would have been perfect, right? But I don't know. I'm not opposed to either. Like, oh, cool. Like, you're joining the MCU now. That's great. Or Keanu Reeves, like, that's awesome. Whoa, cool. That's awesome. But this isn't the part I would pick.
And the last time we saw Galactus at that point, we didn't get the big sprawling, world devourer, as it were, at this point. But it seems to be, if we're going to be it. We are going to be getting them. I mean, for crying out loud, we saw Celestials. We have a darn Celestial popping out of the earth at this point that we're going to be starting to deal with Captain America: New World Order.
Nobody ever talks about
it. Yeah, I mean, they do they really? But it's that the fact that we do have this idea, I'm very confident that we're not going to go the Ultimates route with whatever weird stuff that was.
We do not need Ultimate. The Ultimate line has some amazing stuff, some of my favorite stuff, but it is not with Galactus. Yeah. We do not need that.
And this not a bad idea. All in the game saying Keanu is more Silver Surfer than Galactus.
That is a casting I've long thought could work. Like that one, I see that one right away. I immediately see
Mhm.
that one. Would he be willing to get rid of all the hair and stuff? Who knows? But if it's mocap, whatever.
And
But
and especially brings your idea of the mocap at that point. Being Galactus is literally a world devourer. It towers over everything at that point. Do you
mhm.
just then get the mocapping of the face and let the body be at that point completely CGI, not needed? It'd just be mocapping of the face.
Let's be real. The most important part here, are they going to have like the big helmet with the
Hmm.
stuff coming out? This like that's what I want to see.
Yeah. And there's stuff going on today of like rumored or leaked concept footage. Again, Scooper Madness. Some say yes, some say no. We're not here to debate whether that concept art is real, but it was nothing necessarily that saying, okay, that it looks like Galactus.
It's
It does.
Galactus.
It was nothing amazing, or they're doing anything weird with it. It's kind of a very straightforward idea. So another one up there, the one we've heard back and forth when it comes to Fantastic Four, Adam Driver. Adam Driver, is he Reed? Is he another character? Well, they're saying he's not running for Reed, but actually Doom. But, some stuff going on tonight says that Adam Driver is not going to be anywhere near this franchise. He doesn't want to be a part of anything long term for a little bit right now.
Yeah, Adam Driver. I've said this before. I don't know if I've said it before on the show or like talking to Snell. I know I've mentioned it to Snell because Snell, he's got the massive man crush for Adam Driver. I don't see him as Doom only because Doom is a character who is basically spends the entire time in a helmet. And he
Mm-hmm.
just spent like a whole movie in a helmet, and then they made reasons to get rid of the helmet, and they destroyed the helmet so he wouldn't have to put it back on. Like I don't know. I don't quite see it. That said, if he was game, if he's like, yeah, put me in the helmet, I'm going to wear the mask the whole time, he absolutely, I think, could play the part. I would have no problem with that. I don't, it would surprise me if he wanted to do that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's again, it's gone back and forth with it. I like Adam Driver as an actor. He's probably one of the best actors out there right now. But I think when his name kept on kind of circling this idea, like, oh, he's the front runner for Reed or he's front runner for Doom. A lot of us who had heard his press, after Star Wars and things like that, it didn't seem like he would be wanting to jump into another long-term franchise. Again, things change, and again, money or Kevin Feige can sweet talk anyone to join in at that point. But would it be a great get for the MCU? Yes, it would be. But the more and more we're hearing is just like Adam Driver is probably not going to be connected to this. Um, Next bullet point, Feige wants Fantastic Four to have person of color characters, and Reed is likely going this route.
Mm-hmm.
The big rumor going around right now with Reed is Dev Patel from The Green Knight, which
Yes, saw that
outstanding movie, outstanding actor. That's the most recent thing I've seen with him in it. That he definitely could do this at that point. He in the movies I've seen him in, he definitely comes across as someone who can very much have that very smart, like looks the great brainy scientist, but also, again, we've talked about this before with Reed. He also has to have that kind of, we don't know if we could fully, he's going to do what's best for everyone or what's best for what he thinks is for everyone. Not necessarily villainous, but slightly, he's got a little bit of darkness attached to him.
Yeah, Dev Patel. I think that's a rumor that I can appreciate. Like that. I mean that checks a lot of boxes, right? Like I think that would work pretty well.
Mm-hmm. And I do like this idea that S Bubs has got there. Could see Adam Driver as a surfer as well. Definitely got the voice. He's definitely got the voice for that.
Did you see this comment from All in the Game?
Yeah, I just saw it right now. Keith David would be a great Galactus voice. A bearded Raul Cole, a la Midnight Mass would also be a great read. Have not seen Midnight Mass yet, so I'm going to take your word for that. But yes, Keith David. Yeah, that's another great.
Goliath himself
Yes.
from the Gargoyles.
Yes,
Heck
Goliath
yes, that's
himself.
a great. Oh yeah, I love that idea.
That
That's fantastic.
yeah, really. Geez, wow. That that would really really work. Marvel, make that happen. That is an outstanding idea. Great job. Great pick all in the game. But yeah, again, Dev Patel, that would be great. And again, people would hear this. Oh, Fantastic Four has to be all persons of color at that point. Oh, Fantastic Four is going woke. No, it's about representing, about who fits the part and who's going to do well with it at that point. But if they want to gear towards persons of color, what's wrong with that? Nothing says that Reed, Sue, Johnny, and Ben Grimm all have to be white people. Nothing ever says that at all, and it doesn't matter, and it shouldn't matter.
I couldn't care less about what those people say. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. If and again, if it's gonna be Dev, it's gonna be someone else, person of color. If the whole cast gonna be people of color, awesome. There are plenty of actors and actresses that can take these parts and do a great job with it. And I applaud Marvel for making a concerted effort. I mean, there's nothing wrong with making the effort to look at people, as they say, POC characters, POC actors and actresses for this.
Before you go on, World's Biggest Geek. Mm-hmm. Look, he's throwing their hat in the ring.
Oh, wow.
Clancy Brown as the voice of Galactus. What do you think about that?
Clancy Brown. My God, listeners are popping off with all these. I think Clancy Brown.
I think what we have here though is a good competition, and yeah, if Clancy Brown, Surtur, and Ragnarok, fine, whatever. But it's, I mean, again, voice actors, but could absolutely. I mean, Lex Luthor himself, one of the best Lex Luthors himself. I mean, sign me up for that. I think I'd still give the nod to Keith David, but I would not be upset at all with Clancy Brown.
Yeah. No, that would be. I mean, again, those are some great choices at that point. Again, that booming voice. They both have got to be. Yeah, I'm with you. I give the edge just to Keith David.
I could see Clancy Brown like playing the role physically, like doing the mocap and stuff. Like he's got a presence to him, and I think that could come through.
He's been making the rounds a lot lately, not just with voice acting, but getting out there in even more roles that people's like, oh, I didn't realize he was in. All right, so Fantastic Four. Next bullet point, Fantastic Four members are going to be in their 30s, minus Johnny, who will be played by an actor in his 20s. Fits. That's standard.
Perfect. I would love it to be someone close in age to Tom Holland. I would love that because, Spider-Man and the Human Torch is a good friendship in the comic books. It'd be fun to see that explored, even just a little bit.
Yeah. Some names I've heard floating around for Fantastic Four include Kyle Allen, Jeremy Allen White, Carey Mulligan, Roger Jean Page, Elizabeth Debicki, Logan Lemon, and Diego Luna. Diego Luna, yeah, we've definitely heard him floated around for Reed.
Yeah, Diego Luna is probably my favorite out of this list. Would he want to take part in a whole other franchise like that? I don't know. But overall, there's really no one on this list that would make me cry foul or anything like that.
Yeah, and I think the fun part with this idea is, again, a lot of us had said, when's the next time we hear about Fantastic Four? We still got a while till San Diego Comic-Con. Do you think we get the unofficial leaks to Variety, Deadline, Hollywood Reporter of the first castings?
Let me consult and see when this movie comes out. Fantastic Four is February 2025. Wow, we are not far away at all. Only 2 years. That doesn't seem like very long. Honestly, no, because I think they could hold it because they could hold off on major production for the movie. They could just shoot on sound stages for a bit, and they wouldn't have to go on location for anything right away. And they could, if they were going into production prior to San Diego this year, do that behind closed doors and then make a big splash at San Diego.
And I've heard people saying with all these different castings, people go back to, well, wait a minute, you've got Jonathan Majors playing Kang the Conqueror, who, if they're going to keep the idea of who he is, he's a relative of Reed Richards at that point. Well, then you've got to cast someone who's African American. It's not necessarily.
I mean, how far in the future
I
is
know, yeah,
King from?
yeah,
Like,
exactly. It's just like you don't have to be exactly that. So if it ends up, I just say that. So if it ends up being Dev Patel or Diego Luna at that point, like you said, it's very far in the future. It's a distant relative of Reed Richards.
I'm not going to let that kind of thing bother me.
Oh yeah, no. Again, if people just like gotta calm down and always remember these are fictional characters. So it's okay. So. Get some more castings in the chat. All in the game saying Jeremy Allen White. Oh, okay. Now we're heading to Wolverine. All right.
Yep.
I suppose I think they'll wait to Comic Con D23. Yeah, I don't think they're going to wait till D23. I think this is a very much a SDCC announcement. So, but yeah, so that's kind of the rumor mill that's been floating around with Fantastic Four. Again, as we go, the interesting thing is I have not heard many ideas of castings for Ben Grimm. I've seen Johnny, I've seen Sue, I've seen Reed. I have not seen many people trying to fan cast the blue-eyed thing.
I'd like it to be someone Jewish, but
Very true.
that's about all I have. And so to be honest, like I'd honestly have to Google a list of Jewish actors because I really would like that to maintain and then go from there. But right now, off the top of my head, thinking about it, as Bub says, besides Seth Rogen, yeah, I've seen a couple people say that he probably would be fine at the part. I wouldn't be upset with that. That said, I don't love it so much that I'm like ready to stop the search and just go straight to it. But no, you're right. Seth Rogen he's the most common fan cast that I've seen anyway.
Yeah, what do you, the idea behind like the question is where are we doing this? We've heard the idea of are they going to be displaced people from like going back to what what was it? Doctor Strange said when he was saying from the Fantastic Four, didn't you guys chart in the 60s at that point? Are they going to be from modern times sent back in time and trying to get back to the present day?
Well, the Doctor Strange thing, wasn't that a reference to like the Beatles?
Well, no, it was a reference to a group called the Fantastic Four.
Okay, no, I thought it was a reference to the Beatles or something like that, like who were called. But regardless, I don't think that was. I mean, when I first watched the movie, I was thinking Reed Richards and company. Mm-hmm. But in a vacuum, I really don't care if they're modern day, if they're set in the past. But the MCU, for everything it is not in a vacuum. No. And so my hesitation there is how many times are we going to do this? Mm-hmm. Where somebody was around, we just didn't have them, right? Like we kind of just did that with the Eternals, right?
Yeah.
We did that with Captain Marvel. We did that with Captain America all the way back in Phase 1, set back in. Mm-hmm. And then, not the exact, but basically they both moved into the present day from their past stories. We don't know yet what the plan is going to be for the X-Men. And I wouldn't want them to go to that well too much. But in a vacuum, I couldn't care less. And depending on how they tell the story, I may not care anyway.
Yeah, and what do you think about this one? This is coming from a Twitter scooper, Jason Kane on Twitter. How about this idea? F4 are from the present day. All revolves around experimenting with the time travel tech from Endgame that Tony Stark created. They end up getting stuck in the 60s for a year. Already are practicing their powers. Movie starts as they make it back to present day.
That's interesting. So they were from the present day and then they went to the past. Huh. I mean, it's a little bit, yes, at the bird's eye view, it looks very similar, but it is different. It is different. I don't mind that. That's a clever idea. I could go with
it. And in this case, Tony Stark is not creating a villain.
Well, that's the part I don't like. I like my Tony Stark creating a villain. So.
Well, maybe it creates a villain. Maybe that's what Dr. Doom wasn't a part of it. Victor Von Doom wasn't a part of it, so he hates them for it, and therefore 6 degrees of separation. Tony Stark created another villain.
It's a stretch, but if I have to, I'll allow it. If that's what it takes.
That's Bob's. That's us picking up what I'm throwing down. There we go.
Saying Tony Stark created Dr. Doom. Yeah. No one creates more villains than Tony Stark.
Exactly. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
It is.
But all right. So yeah, great discussion in the chat. Very much popping off at that one. So we'll keep an eye out there, see if anything is imminent dropping, or as we go through as we march towards the Fantastic Four. But we're going to take our first ad break for the evening before we get into the next news items. As you know, listeners, these ads keep the lights on at the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud. Give it that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. So, all right. The next news item is our last news item, but I saw some people really just read this headline and just a lot of losing their minds over this. So, headline reads, Marvel exec confirms the Thunderbolts will act as a sequel. Sequel to what, you might ask? So, this is coming from a post promoting the new Art of Black Widow book. Marvel Studios Director of Visual Development Andy Park revealed this information. In the post caption, it says, here's the book cover portion for the wraparound cover I got to illustrate for the Art of Black Widow. Get your copy today. Taskmaster, the Red Guardian, Yelena, and Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, just call her Val. In fact, don't even call her Val. Don't even think it.
Val.
Yeah.
Don't call her Val.
Will be returning in the upcoming Thunderbolts film. It's like it's a Black Widow sequel, and these movies are connected or something. It's going to be interesting. So I love it how people take that and say Thunderbolts is a sequel to Black Widow. That's not what was said.
It's not what was said. I mean, obviously there are going to be elements of that because I mean, Taskmaster, Yelena, Red Guardian, they're all from Black Widow. But it's worth noting he did update his post. He edited the post, and so Andy Park it now just says, Red Guardian, Yelena, Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, don't call her Val, will be returning in the upcoming Thunderbolts film. It's like these movies are all connected. He left out the part about it being a Black Widow sequel. Did he misspeak? Did he not intend to say it? Did Feige, tell him to pull it down? I don't know, but I find I really don't care because just looking at the cast, it's heavily like Black Widow has got to be a lead into this movie, right?
Yeah,
it has to be.
I mean, you got Red Guardian, you got Yelena, you got Taskmaster all on this team.
Right, and I know that there are other people on the team, right? Like, status is currently TBD because of rumors, but Ghost was announced as being a part of the team, so we're gonna count Ghost for now. And then, of course, we've got a couple people from the Captain America side of things, but with Bucky and with Walmart Cap. But I, in general, I'm still like, I am very excited for this movie. I think it's going to be a fun time. And you know what? Say it how it is. Like, I love watching super soldiers do super soldier things. And there's 3 super soldiers on this team, plus Ghost, plus effectively 2 Black Widows and Taskmaster and Yelena. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm just like, drop them in the middle of like 100 thugs and just let them go to town, please.
Yeah. I love it when people get upset. Oh my God, they're all the same powers. It needs to diversify. It's like, I'm not saying you're wrong, but let's wait to see what exactly happens in the movie and see what happens. But it didn't bother me when I first read it and first read the quote. And I was like, well, yeah, it's not calling it a direct sequel to Black Widow. One can view it as a spiritual sequel to it in the sense of, like you said, these characters are part of it. And so what if it's looked at as a sequel to Black Widow? Who cares?
For years, people were on Marvel because they didn't give Scarlett Johansson a movie. They didn't give the Black Widow character a movie.
Yeah.
And now they do, and they put out a movie where Yelena is like she's literally like at the center of the artwork for this. Like, she's positioned as the leader of the team, or at least the field leader of the team. I assume Don't Call Her Val will be the leader behind the scenes. I'm not going to get upset that they're, putting a woman in charge of this unit, right? Like, they are expanding the Black Widow cast. And if you go back, I understand why people don't like Taskmaster compared to the comic, even though I think a lot of people are making it up because I just don't think he had that many fans prior to the movie. I think this Taskmaster was cool. I think this was a cool character, and I think expanding it could be cool. And just visually, the costume is stunning. Red Guardian is so much fun. Fantastic. And the Captain America group is like my favorite cast of characters. I meant like this sounds great. Like the one I'm the least interested in is probably Ghost. But even that character, if nothing else, visually her powers were fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's again there could be other members of this team that either go in and go out at that point. You know, we've heard rumors of Sentry being a part of this team or not part of this team, maybe being the antagonist. We don't know, but it is. I just love how fans, and I put that in quotes, love that's like break certain things down and the little things that just freak the fans out at that point. I mean, I'm not saying I'm not opposed sometimes to freaking out over certain things, but my goodness, it must have been a slow news day for a couple of days at that point for them to kind of go off and say, how dare they call Thunderbolts a sequel to Black Widow?
Yeah, and you know what? I guess to be fair, it kind of has been a slow news time as far as Marvel goes, but at the same time, like all focus is on Ant-Man, and we're as of right now, like we're 2 weeks away. Well, at this point, we've seen the movie in 2 weeks roughly.
Yeah.
I don't know what time your tickets are, but
3 o'clock.
oh yeah, you're long done. So by this time, we're both finished watching the movie, and like we're that close to the next movie. I'm not really that worried about it, but regardless, Thunderbolts is like the big capper of Phase 5. Yeah, I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it will be. So, but all right, so that's our last news item for this week. Quick preview for next week, Brent. I think we're gonna, with the beginning of Phase 5 coming with Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, unless any kind of big news items drop, our main feature is Brent and I are gonna reveal our 2023 predictions for the MCU. We want to get those out there before Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania drops, so we will be doing our 5 predictions.
We'll be sure to save those so we can go back and revisit them, and next January, basically.
Exactly. See how correct or wrecked we got. So I've got to do better than getting half a point.
I have a crown to defend now. We need to get Snell to send us some if he's not going to be on. Travis, I'm putting you on the spot. If you can't join us next week, send them to us. We'll read them on the show. That way you can join us for next year and keep playing the game.
There we go. That way you can't say I don't remember doing this. Brent always will.
Brent remembers.
Brent remembers. So, but all right. So let us head into our feedback from last week. So. We definitely, you put up the Spidey signal as always, and we got a lot of questions.
Yeah, first up from Mario Parker M. Speaking of Thunderbolts, we think it could be revealed that Thunderbolts during the movie may end up with an entirely different cast of people versus what we've been introduced so far. I would compare this to James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, where you start off with one Suicide Squad and, 20 minutes into the movie, not even 20 minutes into the movie, you have a whole other cast you're actually following. Do you think they're going to pull the fast one on us that way?
I don't think they're going to go necessarily that route, and because I just don't need to think. See, they're copying each other at that point. I don't think they could do that. Now, could they have some members not make it, or some early members that weren't in the kind of main group shot we've seen of the concept art at that point that kind of bite the big one early on, a la like Suicide Squad done? Yeah, I could see them doing that, but I don't know if we're going to see an entire team get basically wiped out, or 2 teams at that point. Yeah, I don't see that. But
the reason I don't think they're going to do that, on at least going off their promo image, every single person is a returning MCU star. I don't see them all getting wiped out, and a new Thunderbolts, the new cast coming in behind them, right? But I do agree with the sentiment that there likely are going to be members of the Thunderbolts who are currently not pictured. So. From them, maybe some will swap in and out, but the team as a whole, I don't really see it.
Yeah. So, what do you got next up?
All right. So this next one is about the multiverse. He says, Mario Parker M says, "What if he who remains threw Loki into another universe at the end of it?" And then Julia Louis-Dreyfus was on Kimmel and referenced Marvel explaining this universe and that universe. That's a quote. This universe and that universe. And Mario Parker M is thinking, sort of hoping that they're going to allow themselves room to tell stories in these other universes. We've done a little bit. We brought the Spider-Mans in from No Way Home. Doctor Strange bounced around through several of them. Do you think, and Mario Parker M wants to know, do we think there's any realistic chance of them having, other than What If, a full project that takes place in one of these other universes? So like the entire movie or entire TV show is not the MCU prime timeline.
Isn't that what Secret Wars is about?
I mean, do we know that the whole thing's going to be in
I don't
another?
know.
We don't know yet. But you
Or Kang
based off
Dynasty. Kang Dynasty.
Secret War is based on the comic. I think a lot of it surely will be like maybe not the very beginning and the very end, but I think a big chunk of that is going to be in a different one.
I honestly, I think it's going to be Kang Dynasty is going to be our biggest one of looking at going into. I mean, Kang is literally going to be going into hit different realities and taking them out. So I think that's going to be,
Yeah, like
a different from that. I don't know.
I don't let's put it, well, let's just use some what if characters as the examples. I don't know that I see a Captain Carter special presentation. That they're gonna do with just her, where it's not related to the multiverse at all. It's just her and her universe. Like I don't know that I see them doing that right now. I think it'd be really cool if they did. I especially think it'd be cool if they did it with a current active person. Like, I'm trying to think of a good example. Maybe another Thor special, like a Thor special presentation where you have someone else playing, or like he's a different version of Thor. Like make him, well, I guess he kind of is turning into the party Thor, but make him someone else, or a different version of the Winter Soldier. You know what I mean? Like different, like this would never happen, but make Tom Holland, but instead of playing this Peter Parker, he's playing the Superior Spider-Man or Scarlet Spider or something. Like I think that kind of thing would be fun. I don't really see them doing it.
Yeah, I think we will get, as we start marching towards Phase 6, and even in Phase 6, I think we're going to get more into like the different realities. But I think the best one we're going to get right now is going to be Kang Dynasty and Loki. So
Fair. All right, from Garrett. Why do so many people refuse to acknowledge Krasinski would be an outstanding read and should stay in the role going forward?
again, I don't think either one of us have said that, John Krasinski didn't understand the assignment and didn't do a good job for the part he was done. I think they did it as because they wanted to at least be a tip of the hat to the fans. But like with everything, as I just said, just because he got spaghettied in Multiverse of Madness doesn't mean we can't pull Krasinski back again to do something multiverse right. Doesn't mean he can't come back in Secret Wars and be a different version of Reed either.
Right, like nobody really thinks that Haley Atwell's Captain Carter was the same Captain Carter from What If. Honestly, like Garrett, I personally would be fine with Krasinski as Reed Richards. I like him a lot. I think in Jack Ryan he's fantastic. Like watching Jack Ryan like made me want him in the MCU. So I think that'd be really cool if he was Reed Richards. It would work. But if they want to go another way, I think it's okay also. They just, if they knew the whole time they were going to go with someone else, they were going to go with a completely different person than Krasinski. But hey, let's throw you a bone in this fun little thing. Kind of like we're doing with Patrick Stewart. Or, like we're just going to bring him in for this fun little cameo and that's it. I'm okay with that too.
Yeah.
Omari Daniels, if we ever get a Young Avengers project, who should their mentor be? I think Carol would work to help the team get started.
I've got a different idea. Carol's not a bad idea. Right now, I'd need to see what happens in the Marvels because she's a team player, and I put team player in quotes, but she doesn't necessarily strike me as one to lead a team per se right now, the MCU incarnation right now. Could she? Yes. My first choice is Clint Barton.
I like that choice a lot. My thing with Carol is maybe I'll feel differently, after July when we see the Marvels. I don't see her having the patience and tolerance to put up with a bunch of kids, or at least people she would think of as kids. In these,
we got to see how she deals with Kamala.
Right, we got to see how she deals with Kamala first and foremost. As far as other people to kind of oversee them, obviously it wouldn't happen because of business reasons, basically. But I actually think Spider-Man would be pretty good. To over at this point, he's young, he's closer to them in age, but at the same time, he has experience. All in the game says Ant-Man and the Wasp. I've heard people call for that as well. I do think that would be both of them. I think would be pretty strong, especially Scott. Like Scott is good with kids, right? So I think that'd be pretty cool. Is there anyone else who would be from current? Like I'm trying to think of like current people, not people that we know is coming. She-Hulk maybe like She-Hulk could be fun. She
Could
doesn't
be.
really have the experience I would look for in a leader, though.
She's also getting finally used to the idea of being the hero and being finally comfortable at that point. Let alone like she'd be kind of an advisor at that point that could pop in every once in a while as like the guest teacher or something like that.
Guest teacher, yeah.
So
Honestly though, I think the idea I like the best is a character we from the comics that we have not technically met yet. I'm going to put technically in quotes there. Iron Lad. If you've read the Young Avengers and you know who Iron Lad is, you might see where that could be going or where that's actually even a possibility. I think that would be a good character because Iron Lad wasn't necessarily their leader, but he kind of, I mean, Patriot was more or less the leader because he was the Captain America character. But I could see someone like Iron Lad doing that. I don't see any of our Thunderbolts cast. Like, could you imagine Bucky the Winter Soldier trying to put up? It would drive him insane. It'd be funny, but I don't think it would be a good fit. Shang-Chi would probably be a good fit, but I don't necessarily think he has the experience, right? I did think of Vision, but that feels a lot like Peter David's Young Justice from the 90s, that comic series where the Red Tornado and Android was their mentor. So I think Vision would be, unless they did it as an homage to Peter David's Young Justice, that's too close. But I'm Iron Lad. I think is still a slightly older Iron Lad who they don't know who it is, and I'm sure if you're listening to this show, you do know who it is. But on the off chance that you don't, just go read Young Avengers. Just read. Do yourself a favor and go read Young Avengers, and I'm not going to spoil it for you.
It's a fun reveal. It's one of those WTF reveals when you get to it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So, and he does congratulate you though.
He did. Congrats, Brent, on leading the Chiefs to the Super Bowl. Well, take the credit, he says. Well, I don't think I was leading them anywhere watching from my house. There was lots of tension during that game. But
some colorful metaphors probably being uttered, right?
Indeed, yes. Yeah, yes, more than once. But regardless, yes, I am very excited for the Chiefs to be back at the Super Bowl. So that's going to be a lot of fun for me. Sorry to the Eagles fans. Number 2 is not so bad, though.
That's fine. I'm a Giants fan originally before I moved to North Carolina. So I mean, Eagles going down is not gonna upset me at all.
Well, great. So, you're rooting for the Chiefs then. I declare.
Exactly. See, so you got another one at that point. All right, we got one last question.
All right, from Anthony from DC Outlaw. If Karen or Foggy are not in Daredevil Born Again, as both previous actors have claimed that they have not been called, for the record, don't believe that. And for the record, I changed his question to the word claim there. What characters can fill the roles that they play, and what storylines would maybe they go for if that would make it so like you didn't have to have Karen or Foggy?
I really struggle with this one just because, being as big of a Daredevil fan, again, I go with my moniker, the Man Without Fear. There's not, Karen, you can get away with not having a lot of Karen in it, but not having Foggy, it kind of goes together with Matt and Foggy. He's always there in the background in some way, shape, or form. You know what I mean?
So yes, we are so aligned on this. With Karen, I don't want to say she's just a love interest. She is a more important character than love interest of the week.
Yes.
But he has had romantic ties to several other characters. And if they wanted to still have a love interest, there's other ways they could go. Number one, they could go with She-Hulk. That's been established in the MCU. But with Foggy, it is harder, and I almost feel like if you want to do a Daredevil story without Foggy that lasts longer than 1 or 2 episodes, you got to take him out of Hell's Kitchen. Yeah. You got to take him out of New York, throw him over, in Europe or something, like put him just somewhere completely different. He's over there on an individual case, and it spirals out of control or something. So what? I'm trying to think of like what specific stories would fit the best. Let's see, Blind Spot, the story with Blind Spot, like he was overseas for a little while for that. He could always take the fight to the hand. He's not going to bring Foggy on that,
I wouldn't go so far with that.
Yeah, I know, stop it. I know, stop. But it's, I know what you're talking about. But in general, S-Bub's Daredevil Far From Home, I maybe pick a different title, but I get what you're going for. But I do think you have to remove him, because I think you have to physically remove him. I guess you could pull an Iron Man 3 and knock him out and have him in a coma for the bulk of the story, but
It can't,
it's harder to go without Foggy.
Yeah, again, I agree with you on Karen. Not saying Karen's not an integral part of this, but the other problem, at least as a comic book fan right now, spoiler alert, for many, many years, Karen's has been and stayed dead. And so I've, to your point, if we want to be kind of cheeky about it, yeah, Matt's before Karen and really much after Karen has had a lot of different love interests at that point. And so me saying Karen is necessary is like, okay, he's necessary in the sense of because we're at the beginnings of this, wherever we're going to be with Matt Murdock and the reintroduction to the MCU. I see that as necessary. From comics today, I have grown not to have Karen Page for a very long time, and it's not necessarily, it's always been in Matt's mind, but we have to get to that point with Karen. So Karen is necessary to define who Matt is if we're going to go down the route of Karen eventually being,
I mean, she's
dead.
kind of, you could call her, you could say Karen is to Daredevil what Gwen Stacy is to Spider-Man.
Yes.
His perceived great failure that continuously haunts his memories, for both good and bad, really, I guess. So maybe haunts isn't the right word.
Yeah.
But Foggy is like, that'd be like having Batman and you just have no Alfred, no Robin, no Commissioner Gordon, right? Like, he's one of those type of characters. And sure, you can do those stories. And of course, at this point, after 80 years or whatever of Batman stories, there have been those stories, but they're few and far between for the most part. And but Daredevil doesn't have as big of a supporting cast as others. So if you get rid of these two, and it's like, who are we? Millie, maybe, we could bring in her. Obviously, you're not going to do anything with Natasha at this point, but they could kind of, they mix things up. That could be more of a Yelena thing if they wanted to go the route of Black Widow and Daredevil's partnership, if you will. It's. I don't know. I don't like the question.
Yeah.
I don't. It's a great question. I just honestly, I want Deborah Ann Woll and I want Eldon Henson to come back. And so right now, I'm just hoping that they do come back. Do I want Deborah Ann Woll to come back just to get taken off the board again? Not necessarily.
Yeah, not that quick.
But if it's what the story dictates, it's what the story dictates.
Yeah. So great questions, everyone. We appreciate you sending those in. So we're going to take our last ad break before we get into Factor Fictions and Comic Book Club and closing out the show. So again, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on. They can be a bit loud to give it a 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. So let me pull up Factor Fictions from last week. All right, number 1. I will tell you right now, I mean, it's always interesting how every week when I post these Factor Fictions, which ones pick up. Maybe one picks up really trends, other one trends. Every one of these had like in the hundreds of votes, either by the hashtag or whatever. So good job on last week's stuff. Number 1, other than Daredevil, a Netflix hero will appear in Spider-Man 4. 48% said fact, 52% said fiction. So close one on that one.
The fictions have it.
Yep.
It's gonna happen.
Number 2, Hobgoblin will appear in the next Spider-Man trilogy. 46% said fact, 54% said fiction. And the last one, the Marvels will have the lowest MCU box office for 2023. 55% said fact, 45% said fiction. So pretty close voting, at that point. So, yeah. But Brent, what you got for us for this week?
All right, first up, and I just called a last minute audible with what I had to do with if I was ever going to do it, it was going to be this week with our post credit scene. But that'll be my third question. Number 1 of the upcoming Spider-Verse movies, Across or Beyond, will have a live action scene in it.
Okay, so live action scene in that. I'm gonna say fiction. Right now, I'm saying fiction just because the stuff they've talked about, and I think they've said this, that at least can't remember. It's definitely maybe it's across both, but other one, but talking about 6 different current six different animation styles as they travel through the multiverse at that point, as they travel to different parts. So could they be hiding animation styles live action? They could, but I don't see it necessarily. Would it be cool? Yeah, sure. But I'm a fiction on that one.
Between the two, I'm not a strong fact, but I'm leaning that way because I see it as a way, especially using sound stages, as a backdoor way to get a live action Miles cast, especially before Secret Wars.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and say fact on it, but it's not a strong fact, like 52, 53%.
Gotcha. Number 2.
The joke of the day, at least for you and I,
All right.
Herbie will be in the Fantastic Four. If you don't know who Herbie is, it's an acronym: Humanoid Experimental Robot B-Type Integrated Electronics. No, I didn't know it. I had to look it up. But basically, like in the old, was it from the 70s or early 80s Fantastic Four series? My understanding is the people thought the Human Torch was. They didn't want to make fires seem cool, so no Human Torch, and the fourth member is
That's the
this
reason?
robot. That's the reason I've always seen. I don't know it to be a fact, but that is the reason I've always seen. And regardless, Herbie, it's a robot. He has shown up other things, just one of Reed Richards' robots. Are we gonna see Herbie in the Fantastic Four movie?
You and I were having some fun talking about this. Man, it's not knowing much of anything in the sense of where we're placing these characters and where they're at that point. I'm going to say fiction. I'm going to go with what I posted online in the sense of I don't see Herbie in it, but I do see an Easter egg giving the tip of the hat to Herbie.
I'm just saying fact, just blanket fact.
You got to stick with it.
But I do think it will be like Easter egg style. Like he's just going to be a robot in the background, and you're going to, people like us are going to recognize him, but people who don't listen to the show are just going to think, oh, Reed Richards has a robot. Okay. Yeah. Maybe they'll mention his name once, call him Herbie once.
Maybe.
All right. Number 3. A little bit of trolling here, and I apologize.
No, you're not.
I've told you this one before. When the Guardians of the Galaxy marketing begins, somewhere there will be something that says from the head of DC Studios.
You had to do that, didn't you?
I mean, if ever there was a week for me to drop this one, this is the week, right?
That is true.
When DC made all this news, like this is the week.
No. Fiction.
Yeah, it's a fiction for me too.
It's a hard fiction. At no point the distinguished competition will not be put in the anywhere near Marvel Studios outside of if a trailer happens to be before it.
That'll probably happen. Actually, I could see that, but it's all the game could see it if it was Deadpool movie. That would be awesome. But it made me laugh. So.
That's a fun one. That's a fun one. I'll be interested to see
how that vote goes.
I really will. Yeah, I gotta be very strategic with the hashtags because I really want people to pick up on this and say, "Are you crazy?" I said, "Yes, we are."
Just use them all the hashtags,
all the hashtag. I've done one big hashtag. All in the Game has a question for us. Did you all think about 6 to 8 weeks ago that Black Panther: Wakanda Forever would get within 6 million of Age of Ultron domestically the day it went to Disney Plus?
No, I did not. Yeah, Black Panther's at 453, and I had to look up Age of Ultron, but you can presume it's 6 million more. It's at 459 domestic. No, I really didn't think it'd get that close.
Yeah,
but I mean, the only reason anybody anywhere thinks 830 is bad for this movie is because the first one massively overperformed. But you look at all the challenges and stuff, 830, it's still really good.
Yeah. But all right, so I will post those on Sunday afternoon, so be on the lookout for those. And all right, let us get to Comic Book Club. Spider-Verse number 2, as we continue looking at our march into this comic book arc for right now. This one, not as strong, I thought, as the last issue of it. Particularly, I was very confused, not with the first one, with the what it looked like the very short one pager at that point as the video
Yeah, where
game.
he's in a video game.
Yep.
I like that one. I think that
Yeah.
one's kind of funny.
Yeah, I thought that was funny. The next one, I was like, I was head scratching the entire time. So where are we going with this? I'm quite confused.
Yeah, so this other one was about Anansi, right? And
Yeah.
this is where the second Gargoyles reference of the day, but this is where I tell you, like, the only reason I know anything about that is Anansi was a character in an arc of the Gargoyles TV show. Like, I don't know anything about it, but honestly, like, even with that, like, that story to me felt like it just kept going, and it just didn't grab my attention. It just didn't grab my attention.
It was trying to be. It was like almost one of those things that was trying to be really funny, and it just nothing was landing for me. It just seemed more like, where are we going with this? What's happening? We see Spider-Man UK here. I get why he's here, but why is he here now?
See, he's here to recruit a spider. Of
No,
course,
I get that.
He
Yeah.
just shows up.
Yeah.
Like there's no portal, there's no anything. You just there's his foot just sitting there, and I don't know. Like I felt like they just. I think it would have been a stronger story without Spider UK being in it. They just rammed him in there.
But what I will tell you is the next story really, not just the art, but just they did a great job giving a good introduction to what we affectionately known as Spider-Punk.
This one, I'm kind of glad we read this now because I've got in my queue to read the Spider-Punk miniseries that came out a little bit ago. I haven't started it yet, but it's just like, I might check that out, so I added it to my list. Spider-Punk's a cool character. It's a cool character design. I'll be curious. I know some of the other heroes show up in that Spider-Punk miniseries, but I'll be interested to see like what their designs are like. But
Especially that final splash page. Hobart Brown is Spider-Punk at that point. Him holding the guitar up.
yeah,
and
that's
everyone.
a great page.
I'm starting the documentary. It's on Amazon Prime called Future Shock. It's all about the 2000 AD late comic label at that point. And as I'm watching it, I just finished reading this issue. I was like, oh my gosh, this reeks of like tips of the hat to 2000 AD, just the style and what it's talking about. I mean, that was a good one. Tell the funny story of when you read the next one.
So the next story is in Spanish, and I don't read Spanish, so I'm like, well, I'm just gonna look at the pictures, and I'll look at the art. And I actually really like this design for Spider-Man.
Oh, the artwork is amazing.
The artwork is amazing, and so then I read it, and I'm like, okay, I'm going through, and there's another story, and then at the very end, they print the English version in it. So I'm like, well, I guess I'm looking at all this again because I'm gonna read it in English. Here's what I didn't tell you because I actually just remembered today.
Yeah.
I did the same thing when this issue came out originally. When I bought this on Comixology. Like they actually in the print version they said like, you can go download the English version if you want. But so they just my understanding is just printed the Spanish part. But I did the same thing. So like it got me twice. Both times I've read Spider-Verse #2 or however many times. I think actually for this miniseries it probably is just both times. They got me again.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, when you gave me that heads up at that point, and like I said, it had been a very long time since I read this, but I love the art style of it. Obviously the costume very much reminds me of Miguel and his costume at that point. But man, what an amazing! I love the art style, love the kind of dynamics of everything with it. But the one right before it at that point, this, as they call it, the Every Spider-Man Ever and Its Little Things by Dan Slott at that point. This was kind of interesting to seeing Peter Parker speak to Peter Parker, but we've got a Peter Parker in normal Spider-Man, and then we've got the one just not necessarily in the symbiote costume, but in a black costume at that point, kind of comparing their respective lives.
Yeah, and they're just kind of going back and forth. Oh, what's your thing? What's your thing? And they're like looking at all of them, and then it basically ends with a pretty cool splash page of a whole crap ton of spiders. And if nothing else, the Spider-Verse event is good for giving you those kind of splash pages.
Yep, exactly. So, but all right, well, we will continue on into our journey with Spider-Verse as we look at The Amazing Spider-Man #10. So that'll be technically, quote unquote, part 2 of Spider-Verse. So looking forward to reading that. And we've come to the end of the episode. So, Brent, tell people how they can follow you.
Yeah, Brentech Prime. You know where to find me. Twitter, TikTok. That's where I hang out.
Yep. Continue. Always go to organicpricebooks.com, our official sponsor. Use that code MarvelGUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order. You can follow me on Twitter at Chris Balga. You can follow my other show, World's Finest True Believers, at Finest Believers. Just dropped a new episode this week with Lisa from I Love That Movie podcast, coming in for her three-peater, looking at the show's very first manga, Battle Angel Alita. So if you've never read that, read it, check out that first volume, and join us back. Great episode. It's always a pleasure having Lisa on the show. You can email the show at Marvel Alliance Podcast at gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUAPod Network. Feel free to tweet, email if you want to provide Fact or Fictions. DMs are open for questions, feedback. Continue to rate and review the Marvel Alliance solo feed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever podcatcher choice may be. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for joining us in the chat. Stay safe out there, everyone. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. All right.
We're going off book.
We're going off book. We're going off book, but since we're definitely going off of we're not going to be talking about Marvel. And this week, as of Tuesday, everything has been talking about it since that point. We'd be remiss to not give our thoughts on it. James Gunn, Peter Safran have announced their slate for Chapter 1, of which they have affectionately titled Gods and Monsters. Now, I will say this at the beginning, I'll say this at the end. Check out DC Alliance. Travis Hines has given his first thoughts on it immediately after the stuff was announced on Tuesday. But Travis and Joe will be breaking down everything that is what Joe's thoughts are, since he hasn't given his thoughts, but also all the fallout from it, in positive or negative, depending on how you look at it, with it. So I want to give them a plug, but Brent and I want to at least give our opinions on this. So Brent, first high-level thoughts, everything. We'll quickly kind of go through kind of our excitement for these projects.
So let me state right off the bat, they said I think it's half of Chapter 1. It's definitely not all of Chapter 1. So there are projects that are going to be in this chapter that we don't know about yet. I think this is aggressive. I also think it's a little potentially confusing, but I love the overall direction. I love where their head is at, and if they're gonna err, I'm glad they're going on the aggressive side with it, because I think I feel like there's a lot here that they're doing that people potentially have a lot of potential to latch on. So all in all, I'm pretty positive about this, even though I do think there's some potential confusion, maybe a little aggressive with a couple of these projects, but they're going to do them in a way, it seems, that is probably going to be fine.
Yeah, and hearing just them James Gunn, not only they had the press conference, they had everything like that, but James Gunn coming on video and kind of giving, instead of just going on a big long Twitter feed, he put out a video. He put out a 5-minute video kind of introducing things to it, giving his thoughts at that point. It was very interesting. There are some things I did not see coming, in the sense of, we're going here at that point. But then I realized, it's James Gunn. He's going to give the bigs of the DC their spotlight, but also give those of that many people that don't know about, and give them their kind of time in the sun. So all in all, it's interesting. I think he's clarified a couple of points, some questions I've had recently, in the sense of, talking about what's next, especially saying that Flash is going to reset the universe, but then we get some of these projects saying, does it reset? And he's just recently come out and clarified that, saying some things are going to reset, other things are going to stay the same. And I think I'm okay with that vagueness right now. I'm glad he's come out and at least said that as of now.
I think the vagueness is okay right now, but I've already had people tell me that they think to them it's confusing, because they call Flash a reset, but then the very next project is Blue Beetle, and then after that, Aquaman. Well, Blue Beetle you can get away with, right? You could take out any little references to the DCEU, but Aquaman, you can't do that. His very existence is a reference to the DCEU. So I think that kind of stuff is a little hard to deal with now, but I like the way DC Outlaw put it to me when he sent me a couple messages about it. He compared it to the New 52, which at the beginning of the New 52, effectively everything rebooted other than Batman and Green Lantern.
Yep.
Now, over time, that didn't work very well because the continuity became way too convoluted. It wasn't feasible. And all right, Batman, you're terrible. You've had like 4 or 5 Robins in 5 years. But that, to me, like, that's kind of what it feels like they're doing, at least with Aquaman. Like, he's filling that role of, he's at least going forward a little bit. But so you move past that point, they've got their Elseworld stuff. They called out some titles. Teen Titans Go. I was surprised that got called. Are they making that still? I don't even know.
Yeah, I mean, they're making. I got really excited. They're calling it Elseworlds. They're finally deciding we're gonna have a DC. We have the DC Universe mainline, and then we've got Elseworlds for Matt Reeves' Batman, the Joker, Teen Titans Go. Like, that's, and I like it that he
And
said
Superman and Lois was the other one that got called out.
Yeah, and I love it. He said it's not just going to be just because it's outside. We have a high level threshold to be an Elseworlds tale. So it's not just, as he said, giving away the IP to anyone who has a quote unquote cool story. So that really got me excited. But we're just going to quickly run through just each one of these projects. We're not going to go into detail because that's for DC Alliance at that point. Just kind of talk about your level of excitement. Creature Commandos, the first one, animated, looking at the monsters and possibly led by Rick Flag's dad.
If I'm honest,
Yeah.
I don't care.
Okay,
Like, this
fair.
one doesn't grab me. I will, at a bare minimum, I'll try out the first episode, but I will probably give it more than that because this screams James Gunn's style of
Yes.
ragtag found family type thing. He's good at that, so it'll probably be better than my initial reaction of I don't care.
Yeah, I'm definitely just checking it out. Like, all these I'm going to check out at that point. But the animation, just seeing that concept art at that point, that's the animation style. Hey, you got me for a little bit. Then we get Waller. We've heard this one for a while, spinning off of Peacemaker. So we're not going to get Peacemaker season 2 for a bit. I loved Peacemaker. I love Viola Davis, so you can count me in on looking forward to this. What about you, Brent?
Honestly, Peacemaker, I thought was incredible. Absolutely incredible. So yes, Viola Davis is fantastic. She's an incredible actress. She's one of those things that's like everybody agreed on about whatever incarnation of the Suicide Squad in live action we're talking about. Everybody agrees about her. My only complaint is they should have called it The Wall instead of Waller.
There we go. That would be interesting as well. So next, as he is quote unquote,
No, they shouldn't have, because then they'd have to deal with all the puns about building the wall. Scratch that. Stick with Waller.
there we go. So then, as he said, the first movie under his and Peter Safran's leadership under 2025. So again, the first major film for DC under the DCU will come out in 2025. Superman Legacy, that James Gunn is writing. And Peter Safran kind of joked saying, oh, maybe get him to direct at that point. He was kind of mum on that. We've said it's not an origin story, but it's going to be him wrestling with his Kryptonian and human upbringing at that point. So, the standard thing as an early Clark Kent has to deal with at that point. I definitely love getting the Birthright vibes out of this by Mark Waid.
Well, yes, Mark Waid. I mean, Superman Birthright is a great telling of his origin. I like that this isn't the origin, and like, this really excites me. And I saw some people complaining of they're wasting all this time on this D-list character, Z-list character, or whatever, and they don't have any of the big names. And I'm like, did you just miss the part where there's Superman and 2 Batman movies that got talked about? But no, the Superman Legacy. I've never made any secret of it. I'm in favor of the entire reboot. Nothing against Henry Cavill himself. Kind of like Viola Davis. Anyone who may or may not like the movies, they all agree anything you don't like isn't on him.
Yeah.
To quote James Gunn, he did get dicked around, but I'm excited to see a new Superman. I really am excited for this. And do I want Gunn to direct? I don't know. I don't want him to not direct, but I don't know how you direct the first movie while working on all these projects simultaneously before you get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
So,
again, I've made no illusions. I'm a Zack Snyder fan. I'm a Henry Cavill fan at that point. I'm disappointed that Henry doesn't get to continue, at least right now. But again, Superman deserves to have a movie, deserves to be at the beginnings of this new universe at that point. I'm very excited at the potential for what James is writing, and I do believe that he is going to treat the character with respect. So then, Brent, we got it may not be your Lantern, but we are getting officially a Lantern series at that point.
is it going to come out?
Yes.
Is this going to release?
Yes.
Then this is the project I am the most excited for of everything, because I adore the Green Lantern franchise in the DC universe. And you're right, it's not my Green Lantern. My Green Lantern is Kyle. He's my favorite one. But if they're starting with Hal and they're starting with John, that is the right ones to start with. You should, in my opinion, you shouldn't be starting with, yes, the Berlanti one was going to have like Alan Scott. Okay, that's cool. And yeah, you can make an argument for starting for him, but let's be real. Guy Gardner, yeah, great character. Hopefully we get to see him. But Hal Jordan and John Stewart are the two you should be starting with. And I am absolutely excited to see what they're going to do with this show. Hopefully it does well enough that it gets, effectively a second season, or a spinoff or whatever, things come out of it. It's, a buddy cop show primarily on Earth. Fine. I don't care. Like, I feel like as a Green Lantern fan that I've been jerked around a lot of it from the Arrowverse. Not entirely their fault, but eventually it's their fault, because they didn't have to keep putting in the references when they found out they weren't going to do it. Don't get me started on that waste of time that the Diggle plot was. But the only Green Lantern I've gotten besides the 2011 movie, which for the record I like, but I like it partially because that's all I got, is 2 episodes of Stargirl season 2 with Alan Scott's daughter, with Jenny or Jade. No, I want a show. I want a real project, and this is it. We're finally getting one. That's what I want. Perfect. Hal Jordan, John Stewart, perfect people to lead this.
Yeah, I loved it that they called it a true detective events story. Whatever that means, it could just be a buzzword to say, hey, they're looking into something that James is saying is going to be connected to the overarching story. I love Hal. I love John. I think they both get this very much a very different dynamic between the two of them. Again, a Green Lantern Church, sign me up. That it's definitely on the top of my list for being excited. What the next one I was really surprised about, but I'm a big fan of the series, The Authority. Have you ever read anything The Authority, Brent?
I've read very little. Like, they've popped up in other books. Yeah. Was there a Midnighter?
Yes.
An Apollo series around the New 52 starting?
Yes.
Maybe. Because I definitely read. I feel like I read some of that, a little bit here and there. I mean, they're not an evil Justice League, but they're more like a hardcore Justice League. And and some might argue, sorry for this, that's kind of what we're coming from. So I have less interest in this, but you know what? I will still try it out.
One would say, well, the way it sounds like, they're the ones who they're the quote unquote anti-heroes at that point. One says that, like, they're kind of comparing to the boys. No, they're more than that. They're the ones who keep a check on things. People say, well, that's what the boys do. It's like, yeah, but they were there first. So, and they are powered. They're not like the boys in the sense of they're not being just standard humans. They are powered up, and they have a different way of looking at the world.
I've listened to a few podcasts talk about these events, and every single one is compared it to the boys.
Yeah.
The Authority may have been first, but not in live action, not in TV
True.
and movies and stuff. The boys has that claim. They are going to have to differentiate themselves from the boys in a way that's beyond just us. But I have faith in the creatives behind this. I have faith in James Gunn and Peter Safran. I think they'll be able to do it. Right now, my interest is very low in this, but am I going to not go see it? No, I'm going to go see it. So.
Next one, what really got me excited, Paradise Lost, looking at a prequel series takes place all before Diana, all before Wonder Woman and things like that, looking at the origins of the Amazons at that point. This got me very excited because I put this out in a tweet, and I didn't think this was going to get...
It got some traction.
It's got almost up to 9,000 views at that point, but there is an outstanding series called Wonder Woman Historia, looking at the history of the Amazons. Outstanding art, outstanding written by Kelly Dusiconic. It is. I hope they are looking at that as a guide for it. So again, Zack Snyder and Patty Jenkins, say what you want about Wonder Woman 84. Both of them did a really great proof of concept to the Amazons have a story to tell, and it's not just about Wonder Woman.
Basically, across all the movies from the DCEU, pick a movie the Amazons are in. The Amazon scenes are good scenes. That's good. Like there is a definite show there that they can do. And I know they compared this one to Game of Thrones. They compared Lanterns to True Detective. They're definitely trying to invoke some feelings from the HBO fans. That's probably a good idea. It's good marketing, right? But hopefully it can live up to that check they're cashing or that check that they're writing, right? Game of Thrones, like, no, I haven't seen it. But as far as cultural events, like it's huge. It's huge. And it's still going with the what's it called? House of Dragon show. So I mean, they're gonna have to live up to it. But if it's even close to as good as those island scenes in both Wonder Woman and Wonder Woman 84, then it's gonna be a great show.
Yeah. Batman, the Brave and the Bold. Not only the introduction of DCU Batman, but we're getting Damian Wayne as the Robin in this one. Yes, I've grown to really like Damian. He's not my Robin at that point. I'm a Tim Drake. That's who I grew up with at that point. But I've grown to really appreciate Damian. I think they've grown that character and wow, we're going to get, I don't know what age we're going to be. I know what age. We're going to get a young Robin and Batman. That's going to be a first we have not seen in live action.
So, like the Lantern show, they're not using my favorite Lanterns. They're not using my favorite Robin. Unlike the Lantern show, there is a part of me that doesn't think they're going with the correct Robin here. Like I kind of feel like they should be going with probably Dick Grayson at first. Now that said, we have not had a real Batman and Robin since 1997. Yes, I know about Titans, but like, are you really going to tell me that's Batman and Robin? No, just because old man Bruce Wayne's in there? No. A real Batman and Robin story we haven't had since 1997. Damian is a great character, and the Grant Morrison, who I'm very hit and miss with, well, his Batman run is very much a hit in my mind. So, no, like I am really excited for this project. All in the Game asked for our top 3. Lanterns was my number 1. This is probably my number 2, followed by Supergirl, followed by Superman. I mean, but Damian Wayne, he's a great character. I wish we were going to get some Tim Drake. They shouldn't be starting with Tim either, though. But they also said the Bat family. Maybe we are going to get Nightwing in this. Maybe we're going to. Maybe Jason Todd, we'll see him take a crowbar. Maybe maybe they will bring in Tim Drake. So like I don't know. Maybe it's just truly going to be Batman and Damian Wayne Robin. That's fine. Those stories were great. I'm so excited to have Batman and Robin again.
Yeah. Next we get HBO Max series Booster Gold. So again, pure James Gunn, a person who is time displaced, wants to be a hero, trying to go back in time with stolen tech to become a superhero. Yeah, that's got James Gunn screamed all over it. It's going to be probably very comedy focused at that point. So yeah, I'll check it out.
It should be fun. Like he's a fun character. It's a fun comic book series. Unpopular opinion, I wasn't that interested in his little cameo bit that he had in Legends of Tomorrow, but the potential was there. They just got axed before they could do anything with it. But regardless, he's a fun character. So yeah, Booster Gold is someone that they've been trying to do a movie or a TV show or whatever for a long time. We've seen him in live action before in Smallville. This one should look a little better though.
Yeah, I'd say so. Second to last, Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, taking the cues from the Tom King written miniseries at that point. I have not read it. That is probably what I'm going to try to read. It's 8 issues. I'm going to try to read it this weekend at that point. But I like it that we're framing Supergirl is going to be very different from the way we're looking at her because of the portrayal in this at that point. You know what? That's fine, because especially with what she had to deal with and how she is very different from Clark arriving on Earth as a baby. She arrives on Earth when she has lived on Krypton for half of her life at that point as a teenager. So she's seen some stuff. She's had to survive some stuff. I'm very intrigued by this.
So this will be very different from the show, show that, the Arrowverse show. Not so different from the comics, Shout out to Beer with Geeks. Tim over there, Tim points out that, Supergirl's kind of been like this since Jeff Loeb brought back Kara Zor-El in the early 2000s. Like, she has had more of an edge to her. And yeah, go for it. Supergirl in the Arrowverse, very, very, did not have that edge, right? Yeah, maybe an episode or two, but she didn't have that. This, it sounds like, is going to. Like you, I have not written this, but I have not read Tom King's Batman run, so I'm not talking about that run because I know its reputation. But his mini series that I have read are great. Right, Vision, Mr. Miracle, like great stuff there. So I think basing this off of a Tom King written miniseries, they're starting from one hell of a good starting point.
And Tom King was part of the writers' room to help them develop the initial slate. So
Even better.
yep. And last but not least, Swamp Thing is going to close out this first part of chapter 1 at that point. I know you didn't watch the Swamp Thing show, not your tempo at that point. I did. That is proof of concept that Swamp Thing is an outstanding character to look at, and that's if you had to pick my top 3 Swamp Things on my list. Next up would be the Lantern Show, and then man, it's a tough one at that point. I know I promoted a lot about Paradise Lost, but
you gotta pick. You gotta pick.
I gotta pick.
No
I
hedging.
gotta pick. No hedging at that point. I'll go with Paradise Lost. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go for the everyone can be excited about Batman and Superman. I'm excited too, but I'm more intrigued by what are we gonna do with these different properties that we have not seen in their format. So, but yeah. So those are our. I mean, what do you about Swamp Thing? I know
You're right. I didn't watch the DC Universe show. Swamp Thing has just never been a character I have been that interested in. And then the first episode came out and they basically killed the show right then and there. But it's a movie. I'm going to try it out. That's a low time investment. It'll at least get one viewing out of me. All in the Game points out James Mangold as the director. That is still just technically rumor, but it's a pretty. I mean, I think that at a bare minimum, the talks are definitely happening. And James Mangold, he's certainly done some stuff, right? Like he did The Wolverine, which is not the project he's known for in the X world, but I like that movie. And then of course he did Logan, which is an even better movie. And so many people are excited because he does have history with comic book movies.
Indiana Jones and Dial of Destiny up next.
Indiana Jones right there. So you are getting a great director there,
Yeah.
and so they got the ingredients. Now they're just going to have to sell me, but they're going to have to sell me on ticket number 2 because ticket number 1, yes, I'm going to go.
Yep. So those are our quick thoughts at that point. Again, check out DC Alliance this Monday. They're going to break it all down. It's probably going to be a very long show, but I'm looking forward to hear their thoughts. But again, distinguished competition. You make Marvel better. We make you better. We look forward to seeing you back out there, DC. So tip of the hat to you. Thank you all, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.